Okay, so it's no surprise that in Dragon Ball Z, Gohan was the man. Well, technically in this saga, he was still a kid, but he was the man nonetheless. For the majority of the series, Gohan was what was known as a clutch character, someone who could literally come in and save the day at any moment. We saw this for the first time against Goku's brother Raditz when he had him on the ground and screaming in agony, and Gohan went on to break out of the spaceship and give him the nastiest headbutt in the history of headbutts, much to both Goku and Piccolo's surprise. And we continue to see this happen here and there throughout the series. Again, at times where it looked like it was the most dire, Gohan came in the clutch and at the very least could buy time enough to make a difference. Now, the Ginyu Force were like 4/5 played off as kind of a joke, at least after Goku stepped onto the scene, but at the time that they were introduced, they were about the scariest thing we'd seen except for Frieza. And arguably Zarbon and his weird transformation. Like, we saw how difficult it was for not just Goku to beat Vegeta, but the combined team of Goku, Gohan, Krillin, and even Yajirobe to bring down the mighty Saiyan Prince. And here, these five come down to not only put the fear in Vegeta, but go on to completely toy with them, and by extension, Krillin and Gohan. But we see that Gohan has an exponential growth throughout the Namek Saga in both power and overall combat. So today, we're going to see if Gohan by the end of the Namek Saga could take on and even beat the entire Ginyu Force by himself. But real quick, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel, and if you like today's content, be sure to hit that like button. I can't tell y'all enough how much I appreciate the support y'all keep giving, especially as I try to cover topics such as Dragon Ball, Marvel, and Game of Thrones, and so on and so forth. Y'all are the best subscribers, don't ever forget that. With all that said, let's get into the video. So I think we should start with Gohan's progression at the beginning of the saga. Once they arrived on Namek, according to Zarbon's scouter, both Gohan and Krillin had a power level of about 1500. But by the time Gohan, Krillin, and Vegeta encountered the Ginyu Force, Gohan had received a potential unlock boost from the Elder Guru, and subsequently gained a power level of 10,000, according to the scouter that Jeice had when Gohan and Krillin fought Guldo. Now, if you go by the guidebook, it states that Gohan, by the time he actually fights Recoome, had a power level of 14,000. And if we go by the anime, the scene where he charges up the Masenko, Gohan had reached a power level of 20,000. Now, it's not explicitly stated, but in theory, after the terrible beating that Gohan had gotten from Recoome, even seemingly having his neck broken, he would have had to have gotten a Zenkai boost after Goku arrives on planet Namek and gives Gohan a Senzu Bean. Now, the next power-up we see from Gohan is the scene where he goes all out against second form Frieza. After Frieza stabs Krillin and tosses him into the ocean, Gohan immediately goes to try and save him. And in typical Frieza fashion, Frieza gets in the way and starts to taunt Gohan. Gohan then proceeds to get very angry and blitzes Frieza and gives Frieza a very unexpected thrashing in the forms of both throwing hands and shooting out countless ki blasts. Now, after the beating Gohan gives him, Frieza is actually very surprised and comments on how Gohan actually managed to hurt him. This is important because this Frieza said to Vegeta that in this form his power level exceeds over 1 million. Now, following this, Frieza goes on to give Gohan a pretty nasty beating as well, before Krillin is able to recover and basically draws Frieza away from Gohan. After which, Gohan is confirmed by Vegeta to have gotten another Zenkai boost after being healed by Dende as well. Gohan is able to show off the fruits of said boost in his next tussle with third form Frieza. After Piccolo fuses with Nail, he fights second form Frieza. Frieza then goes into his next transformation and starts to gain the upper hand against Piccolo. In another fit of anger, Gohan attempts to help Piccolo by attacking Frieza and is able to hit him with a good sized ki blast. Now, the manga treats it a bit differently than the anime, but in the manga, while it still hurts and holds Frieza down for a minute, Frieza is able to bounce it back relatively quickly. In the anime, Gohan is able to straight up pin Frieza to the ground. And you can see the look on Frieza's face is a look of shock and worry. After this, translations are a bit different, but nonetheless, overall, Frieza recognizes Gohan as someone he needs to keep a serious eye on. Now, if you are someone who scales by the anime as well as the manga, or whether you just like to use the anime scaling in general, then we do have one more feat to use, and that is Gohan being able to go toe-to-toe with Frieza in his final form. After Gohan leaves Goku to fight Frieza, Gohan believes his father is in danger and proceeds to go and try to help. When he gets there, Gohan ends up doing what he can to do to finish off Frieza for good, and is even willing to sacrifice himself to buy time for planet Namek to blow up. Frieza admittedly does power down from his buff 100% form to his regular final form, but still, from the scene that is depicted, Gohan puts in pretty good work on Frieza. Granted, this scene was brief and Frieza had been fighting Super Saiyan Goku for a bit, so he wasn't necessarily at max power, but regardless, It's very easy to argue that this was way more impressive than what Vegeta or Piccolo was able to do to this same Frieza. Plus, if we wanted to use this as another feat, Gohan was able to get in a pretty few good shots on Vegeta when they got wished back to Earth and Vegeta gaslit Gohan into a fight. And this Vegeta is at bare minimum on the same level as third form Frieza. Needless to say that this is all very impressive for Gohan. With his rage boost, it's possible to get his power level to the range of 1 to 2 million, with his standing power level possibly being in the ballpark of 200,000. This probably goes without saying, but this of course means that Gohan is far stronger than each individual member of the Ginyu Force in overall raw power, including Captain Ginyu himself, who had a power level of 120,000 at maximum. Now the question is, could the Ginyu Force manage to beat this beast of a Saiyan by himself if they were all to jump in? Now, I don't want to necessarily downplay the Ginyu Force, as yes, they were mostly treated as a joke by the time Goku arrived on Namek, excluding Ginyu himself, but at the time they were introduced, they were an absolute nightmare for Vegeta, Krillin, and Gohan. And it is shown that they can actually work together to create some kind of synergy between them. We only really saw this with Burter and Jeice when they fought Goku, but if two of them can have coordinated attacks between each other, I think it's reasonable to assume that the rest of the team could have coordinated attacks and combined patterns and whatnot between the 5 of them. However, the problem that the Ginyu Force has is that 3/5 of them don't really have any crazy or hacks abilities and mainly rely on their brute strength and power to beat an opponent. Granted, it's the same for Gohan, but Gohan is just so much more powerful than they are that even if all 3 of Jeice, Recoome, and Burter were to go all out at the same time, Gohan would likely still be able to overpower them, in which case their best chances for all 5 of them to work together. I say this because Guldo and Ginyu respectively have abilities that would give Gohan a bit of trouble. For Guldo, his ability to stop time was a nuisance for sure, but he can't do so for too long before he runs out of breath. And besides which, even if he could, I don't think Guldo would have the power to kill Gohan anyway while he stopped in time. His best chance would have to be doing as much damage as he can before he runs out of energy, so that it would give the rest of the team a more helpful advantage. Which wouldn't be a bad plan, but if Gohan has knowledge of this beforehand, he'll likely go for Guldo first, and I can't say with 100% certainty if Guldo would have the reaction time in order to stop time before Gohan blitzes him, but considering Gohan was able to blitz Frieza in his second form and final form in the anime, then I'd say there's more call to give it to Gohan that he can do so. But if Gohan doesn't have prior knowledge of this beforehand, then this could be a viable option. Sort of the same case for Ginyu. If Gohan doesn't have prior knowledge to Ginyu's ability to switch bodies, then it provides an element of surprise. Even more so if the scenario that I just pitched with Guldo ends up actually happening. It'll give the Ginyu Force a window of opportunity to wear Gohan down enough to throw Gohan off. Plus, Ginyu was actually pretty clever, injuring himself in order to both shock Goku to throw him off and to leave him in a damaged position that he couldn't fight back after he switched bodies. So if Ginyu pulls something like this off against Gohan with hypothetically no knowledge of this, then they could pull out a win here. But if Gohan does have the intel on both Guldo and Ginyu, then I think he's got this. Overall, I think that if Gohan does not have knowledge of their abilities going in, that in the case of the manga, the Ginyu Force has a pretty decent chance of winning this if they all can work together coordinately. But I still do think Gohan would win this about like 7 out of 10 times. If we go off the manga version of this and Gohan does have knowledge of this beforehand, then Gohan still wins, but a lot better, like probably like a 9 or 10 out of 10 times. If we go by the anime with no knowledge, then it's still the same thing, honestly. I mean, but worse for the Ginyu Force considering the feats we have for Gohan. And if Gohan does have knowledge of this going in, Gohan still wins. So I know it might seem like I was giving the Ginyu Force some leeway in order to possibly give them a win, which, like I said, if it's without knowledge, I think they could pull it off a win. But I think overall, given the feats we have to go off of for Gohan, I think he's got both the speed and power to deal with every single one of them. So let me know if y'all think I'm giving Gohan too much credit here. Maybe it's just me, but I think him being able to do so much damage to all 3 of second form, third form, and final form Frieza respectively is really crazy, and I think that just kind of puts him above the Ginyu Force altogether. But I am still willing to recognize that even though we didn't really see too much teamwork between the 5 of them, that they possibly could have coordinated attacks that could deal with this, especially for giving no knowledge to Gohan, that Guldo and Ginyu respectively, their abilities could give a headache to Gohan if they all work together. So there's the video. Hope you all did enjoy it. Thank you all for watching all the way to the end if you have. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click the bell for more notifications. Till the next one, like the snow, out.